So this is just a quick video from me talking about examples of bullying by some autistic PDAers. Today's critical of Pathological, Demand-Avoidance in brackets PDA by Richard Woods at London South Bank University, PhD student, and I am currently on a gap year. So yeah, I do have some conflicts of interest, so I do develop various PDA tools, such as a pathological demand avoidance belief scale. I do earn some income from living training sessions on PDA. Likewise, I do some work alongside Studio 3. I reluctantly advocate for PDA to be diagnosed as a standalone kind of construct. Before I go any further, I will be pointing out that this is going to be talking about some examples of bullying by some autistic PDAs towards those critical of PDA. I do have a conflict of interest because I am the target of some of this abuse, and so is one of my PhD supervisors. So this is something I have loosely touched upon before in some other talks, but I'm going to be addressing it a bit more directly here. Primarily because those doing it don't seem interested in stopping doing it. This is something that actually upsets me quite a lot. So, yeah. This is a slide I've used previously. So, this is an example of a meme by Sally Cat that was published by Sally Cat on Facebook in 2021. And I also mentioned a defamatory petition by Sally Cat against Damian Milton in 2018 as another example of internalized ableism in action. So, I should say how I'm defining internalized ableism here, which is when an oppressed demographic internalizes discourse as used to oppress them and then remits it internally within that group. So in this case, it's internalizing the kind of discourse and the ideology of PDA as a profile and then kind of remitting it internally within the group. In this case, the entire broader autistic population. So in this case, you can see there's some pretty nasty stuff going on from some autistic PDAers to those critical of PDA as a construct. So yeah, as I said, there's prominent PDA critics of PDA receiving ad hominem attacks, such as Damian Milton receiving Milton-splaining. Damian Milton also had a defamatory petition against him with inaccurate information in, which had over 700 responses in 2 days, and it was only taken down under threat of legal action. You should ignore this just because you should ignore the slide 59 bits because I copy and pasted the slide over from a previous talk. So yeah, again, I've been constantly being attacked over 7 years. I've had complaints that have been submitted against me and thrown out. Again, because it's reasonable to be critical of PDA. That's why the complaints have been thrown out. That, and because basically the complaints were baseless. So, yeah, I've been told recently by one autistic PDA that I can expect to be attacked for as long as I'm critical of PDA. There's also a claim that I'm not a PDA despite them not knowing me or seeing my medical records, etc., and making some pretty broad assumptions about me. Which I would be doing in that situation, but yeah, it also appears, as I'll touch upon later, that the autistic PDA community seems to view these attacks as being justified and acceptable behaviour. So, the reason I'm saying this is because there seems to be a lack of the autistic PDA community holding those doing these attacks accountable, which they are capable of doing because they are very critical of some people and they can be very quick to mob onto people when they think there's an issue. So, for example, the petition against Damon I mentioned, and also you can go look at the claims that are being made about Harry Thompson last year. I don't really want to get into the claims about Harry Thompson, that's another video, but I should be clear, it's not another video that I'm actually making, it's just another topic for a different video if I was to make it. So this is an example of one of the memes that has been targeted against Damien, so yeah, it's basically saying that Damien was being critical of PDA, saying he's out to prove that PDA doesn't exist, and that people who identify PDA are saying that they identify with it and therefore there should be no critique of PDA. Which I have quite a lot of problems with because, for one, what if the assumptions being made around PDA are mistaken and inaccurate? Apparently there's nothing we can do about it. And which is problematic because, in my view, as I've showed in my previous video and my previous talk, it does seem that they have constructed this irrational demand avoidance binary from their biases and the circular processes going on within kind of how PDA has been constructed. So, going back to this slide around, and this meme by Sally Cat, because it is nasty, frankly, I do need to address it because Sally Cat is saying, she's complained that I've published it, but I point out that she published it first on Facebook by herself. It's meant to be a joke. I think it's blatantly not a joke. My response would be to anyone who says it's a joke is to ask them, do you think calling someone such an incompetent, arrogant and underqualified twat is being nice or respectful to them? How do you feel if someone turned around and called you such an incompetent, arrogant and underqualified twat? I'd also point out that if I edited this meme to put Sally Cat's face instead of mine in it, and edited the text to say it all makes sense of why she was such an incompetent, arrogant, underqualified twat, people would be saying that editing me would be bullying. And yeah, I don't think the claim that this meme is a joke passes any reasonable kind of engagement with it as it is a joke, and most people I've spoken to have said that it's not a joke. Yeah, and if you want another reason why this meme is not a joke is because those views of Sally Cat seem to be reflective of her views on me as a person, and this is a Facebook post by Sally Cat from this year, so from the 17th of March, and she's again likewise pretty aggressive in there. She's kind of implying that I don't have PDA in here as well. She makes a bunch of claims in here, and I've asked Sally Cat to provide evidence of them, and so far she has not. Which means that I'm just assuming that she doesn't have any evidence for them. So, yeah. It's like I don't assume that they are mentally deficient. I think it's reasonable to question if Sally Cat understands my critique of PDA in some aspects, because she's saying that she's claiming here that I say that she's claimed that she's got PDA due to internalised ableism, when no, I'm not. I'm referring to the attacks that Sally Cat is making against me and Damian and others. That is an example of internalised ableism in action. That's what I'm saying, not... But yeah, this is just some stuff I have to deal with. And I have tried to engage with Sally Cat on the topic. She just doesn't seem interested in wanting to do it. Yeah, I mean, and I can refute the claims in here. So I'm not particularly impressed with it. It's not... Yeah. More recently, I contacted Book Madeira at No Pressure PDA about a video they made about me. Basically going, like, please can you kind of deal with it, because, like, take it down, because I don't know some stuff that... There's some claims made in this video that I didn't even know people were making about me and stuff, which I tried to engage with them on. I tried to point out that Brooks and others' conduct against me and other people with critical PDA are inappropriate and unacceptable, and there just seems to be no real interest from Brooke and other people like Sally Cat to stop doing these attacks. I also found out recently that that Brooke Madeira published some of my correspondence with them out of context, because the actual and it is out of context because I'm emailing Brooke about theirs and other people's conduct in how they're treating people critical PDA, and I've obviously asked Brooke to take this down. I've made quite a lot of different arguments about it. Brooke is aware that publishing people's emails is generally inappropriate, wrong, and shouldn't be done. They just don't see that. They just don't really want to do it. They did this without my consent. I made it quite clear they didn't have my consent, and they didn't inform me that they published it either. So just completely lack of respect from Brooke in how they're interacting with me on the topic at all. So yeah, I'm not particularly impressed with how Brooke has handled it or how she's treated me in my correspondences with them, and generally as well from what I have seen about it. So yeah, as I said, it seems that there's some misunderstanding by scholarship by some in the autistic PDA community. I don't express they are expressing the behaviours they claim to be, but I do question some interpretations and assumptions they are making around PDA. I share the concerns that they should be adequately supported. I just don't think that needs to be done using a PDA diagnosis or a profile to adequately support them. And I would point out, if you engage with the PDA literature, like those critical of PDA as a profile or as a distinct entity, people would say that you should be adequately supported with independent of a PDA diagnosis, generally. So, yeah. I should also point out that PDA tools often contain problematic behaviours that require intent, such as bullying, harassment, lying, stalking, stealing, and various violent acts. But there's still no excuse for the behaviour that some autistic PDAs are expressing to PDA critics. Like, as I said, like even if you engage with Sally Cat's memes, Sally Cat is aware that she's controversial and that some of her behaviours are problematic, but she doesn't seem to care or have any interest in stopping the attacks against me and other people critical of PDA. And I said there's no excuse for their behaviours. So, yeah, the kind of final point I think is quite important because we know that PDA descriptions and tools contain these kind of problematic behaviours, such as, and we know that that some autistic PDAs have consistently expressed these behaviours for at least 7 to 8 years. That one can question if it's ethical to be exposing people critical of PDA to such behaviours by prematurely raising PDA as a profile of autism or just as a distinct thing. And the reason why I say this is because even if you create safe spaces, I am putting that in quotation marks, for PDA as a profile and to be accepted, those critical of PDA aren't going to be found outside of those spaces, and people are going to encounter them because it's reasonable to be critical of PDA. And people have been critical of PDA for over 20 years. Even Lorna Wing was critical of PDA. She literally questioned if it was distinct syndrome. And yeah, it's unreasonable to expect PDA critics to experience such abuse from autistic PDAs because they are encountering people being critical of PDA as a construct. There's an issue here that autistic PDAs are conflating critique of PDA with people saying that they're not expressing these behaviours due to and people aren't doing that. Even PDA critics are saying that these behaviours are being expressed. They're accepting that. They're just saying you don't need to do it within PDA as a construct, as a category, as a diagnostic label. One can separate out the social construct of PDA from the fact that people are expressing these behaviours and how to adequately support them. And that distinction is not being made by some autistic PDAs. And that... Yeah, I mean... I don't know, because I could try to explain this to them, and it doesn't seem to listen. They don't seem interested in accepting that kind of notion. So yeah, I'm going to stop this video pretty much now. So I think this is the final slide. No, I've got one more. So I've got to end with saying may your swimming activities be many and your flow states long, and that's basically equivalent to live long and prosper for neurodivergent people. So these are my contact details if you wish to get hold of them. So like my Twitter /X handle, my email, a link to my kind of recent talks, and my YouTube channel, which you should be watching this video on. So